All right, hey guys, I just did the math for the minute of angle turrets we were talking about with the quick wind. I said in the last video I was going to cover it down, had to do some minor math. So I set it up for, again, my 308, roughly about 2714 muzzle velocity. The difference is I did two columns because we're going to go over two different methods because I, again, don't shoot MOA turrets or MOA scopes. So I do know they come in half minute and quarter minute adjustments. So just based off of that, I'm going to show you how you would want to kind of line those up, right? Because it's a quick estimate. It's not exactly 100% precise. So I started with a 3-mile-an-hour wind, and that's because I was trying to get the quarter minute adjustments, right? So again, we did 100 to 700. For the 308, because that's usually where it drops off around that 650 spot. So what we're trying to do is get as close to 1 click per range, right? So at 100 yards, you would roughly need 0.21 minutes of angle for a 3-mile-an-hour wind, which we would round up to 0.25 or a quarter minute adjustment or 1 click, right? So or it would be 1 click. Okay, at 200, we're getting 0.43. So again, we'll round that up to 0.5 MOA, which would give us 2 clicks. Same thing, 300, 0.68. We're going to round that up to 7.5, which will give us 3 clicks. At 400, 0.91, which is going to give us 1 minute of angle. So 1.0, which would be 4 clicks. 500, we're getting exactly 1.25. So we don't need to change anything. We don't need to round it or anything. We just need to know that that is 5 clicks. 600 is 1.6. That's where it starts to get a little weird, right? Because we really want a 1.5. So we would round down, but that's going to give us 6 clicks. And then at 7, we might be able to get away with 650. But at 7, we're going to jump a whole click because that's going to round us up to 2.0, which would end up being 8 clicks. So we might be able to hit that 650. 650 yards and maybe get away with 7 click, but I'm not sure. But again, I didn't just do the math. I did it in increments of 100 just for it to be simple, right? Because we're doing it in increments of 100. And with the, sorry, losing my train of thought. With the mills, we're usually getting that same spot right around that 600 is where it's pretty precise. And it starts to fall off as we get below, or sorry, not below, but further out, below on the chart, but further out in distance. So you might be able to squeak a 650, but usually right around 600 is where you want to start getting away from quick wind and using other techniques to kind of get really precise with that wind call. Okay, if you're using half-minute adjustments on your scope, so our half MOA. We'll do the same thing real quick just to make it easy, right? So now we're trying to get 1 click per range. So at 6 miles an hour, that's going to give us 0.42, which we would round up to 0.5, which is 1 click. 0.87 for 200, which we're going to round up to 1.0. It's going to give us 2 clicks. At 300, we get 1.36. We can round that up to 1.5, which is going to give us 3 clicks. At 400, 1.89. Round that up to 2.0. It's going to give us 4 clicks. At 500, it's going to give us 2.54, which we can round up to 2.5. This is going to give us 5 clicks. 600, 3.1, like same thing, right, where it starts to go over the top. So we would round down to 3.0, which is going to give us 6 clicks. And then here at 700 is where we get all the way. It jumps up to 4.0. So it's going to give us 8 clicks. Again, you can round down to give that 3.5 to where you can get away with that 700. But because we're starting to go over the top, that's where we know, same thing, regardless of the wind speed, right around that 650 mark, it's going to be where it gets funky. And we start, instead of rounding up, we're now rounding down and rounding over. So if you continue to round up, you're going to miss, potentially off the strong side of the wind. Again, this is giving us a 3-mile-an-hour gun for quarter-minute adjustments. This is giving us a 6-mile-an-hour gun for half-minute adjustments. So you can go either or. Just depends on what your adjustments are on your scope. Okay. You can't really go below 6 mile an hour with the half minute because it just starts getting so low to where, again, you have a 0.21, you're going to have to round to a 0.5. Getting a 0.43, you're going to have to round to a 0.5, and now you're getting the same clicks on multiple ranges, which again could work if you test it out and you shoot it and you like it. But because the disparity between this and this is starting to get so high, as far as 2.1 to 0.5, 0.43 to 0.87, right? The gap is getting so big that we're starting to get even less accurate. So it's not as precise and it's not really what we want. So again, I'm not an MOA shooter. This may not work 100%. I don't really have the ability to test it because I don't have MOA scopes. But for quarter minute adjustments, you're usually going to get a lower mile per hour number, which doesn't mean the gun is less accurate or the bullet's not as good. It's just because your adjustments are so much more precise that you're going to be working with a smaller win number. For the half minute, because that is a larger increment of measurement or unit of measurement, and the increments are bigger, you're usually going to get a bigger number, which may sound better, right? Because I know in mills, when we're like, ooh, I have a 6 mile an hour gun in mills, everyone thinks it's a really, really good bullet. It's because we're always using the same unit of measure, which is 0.1 or tenths of a mil. With the quarter and half, we're using 2 different sizes of measurements. So the numbers are going to be two different numbers. It just makes sense. Generally, they'll be bigger, like double your quarter, because the adjustment is twice as big. But I don't know if that's always going to be the case, and I can't honestly tell you that without running some different numbers. But again, because I'm running it off a 308 at 2714, because that's my gun and I know that gun, I can run all these numbers and be fairly confident that these numbers will work with these units of measure. I hope this helps for the guys that are running MOA scopes and kind of figure out how to do it right. Again, I know I have another video, but just to reiterate, because I skipped the first portion of how to find it, right? You got to make sure all your measurements are a minute of angle in yards. You put all that stuff into your ballistic solver, okay? And then if you're using forward off, you spin all the way. You go to your range card, you're spinning all the way to just wind drift. Just wind drift. Make sure the spin drift is not being accounted for, because if your gun has spin drift, it will change the number from one direction to the other. And then pick a full value wind, either going left to right or right to left, doesn't matter, but it needs to be a full value wind. Okay. Again, if you go back to the other video where I show you how to figure it out using the mill system, you'll still be able to figure it out. Just change everything to MOA and go to the right column. If you're using AB, you just turn off spin drift and Coriolis effect and all the other stuff. Although the only one you really need to worry about is spin drift. You can turn all the other ones off just to make sure there's no other variables that are coming into play that are changing these numbers. Or if you're going to have them on all the time, then I would say just turn off spin drift so you have an accurate win number, and then understand that when you turn on spin drift and you see what it gives you, the numbers will be slightly different, because if it's a right hand twist going into the wind or against the wind, the number will change. But it will usually only be, probably in this case, I would say it would be, a quarter minute, maybe a half minute at those further distances. So again, as long as you know that, you know whether you need to bump down or bump up as you get more familiar with your gun and shooting it at those distances. All right, guys. Hope this video helps for the MOA guys. If you have any other questions, please drop them in the comments. And as I get more time, I'll continue to do some more of these, since I haven't really gotten range time. I'm kind of going back to the whiteboard, just trying to do stuff to get you guys some content that can help you guys out, for you guys that can go to the range and test this stuff while I'm being swamped with work. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.